Are you drawing for yourself or for the algorithm? There's a question I keep coming back to lately. If no one was watching, no followers, no comments, zero engagement, would I still be drawing? That question feels harder to answer than it should be. There are two ways an audience can form around your work, and they're almost opposites. One is fast, it's built on attention, loud thumbnails, really interesting hooks, content shaped to whatever the algorithm is rewarding this month. A small number of people, or a small percentage of people, are genuinely great at this, and they build real business doing it. I respect that skill. But for most people who try this path, the reality is harder. You're at the mercy of the algorithm and the tech companies that run it. They don't really care about your individual success. They care about generating revenue. And the kind of work that earns revenue at scale is rarely the kind of work that builds your passion in the first place. If you're banking on a viral moment to become a long-term career, that's a risky bet to make with your own creative life. The other path is slow. It's built on trust. You make work you actually believe in. You post at your own pace. The growth feels frustratingly small at first, especially when you watch other channels just shoot right past you. But the people who find you tend to stay. They watch your old videos. They leave thoughtful comments. They tell their friends. Both paths are valid. They look similar from the outside, in fact. Both involve posting drawings on the internet. But they end up in very different places. And a lot of frustration comes from accidentally being on one path while measuring yourself by the other one's scoreboard. What I want to talk about is the second path, because nobody really teaches you how to play that game, and it's the one I've chosen for this channel. There's a movie I watched in my high school philosophy class called Waking Life. It's directed by Richard Linklater in the early 2000s, animated by rotoscaping over live footage. So it's got a really interesting painterly or illustrative quality, and sometimes super sketchy and simplistic. The main character wanders through a lucid dream, meeting philosophers and artists who each give him a piece of how to actually be awake in your own life. I remember sitting in that classroom, mesmerized by the aesthetics of this film and just fascinated by the ideas shared in it. The main character barely speaks for most of it. He's just this passive listener for the most part. People deliver these dense, beautiful monologues, and he just nods and walks to the next scene. The film is almost an hour in before he starts pushing back, asking questions, having real conversations with the people he meets. I think that's the moment he begins to wake up, when he stops consuming what other people are saying and starts engaging with it. The film is structured to mirror its own argument. Listening is not the same as waking up. At some point, you have to start talking back. There are 3 scenes from that film that I want to share today, because I think they each name something important about how to keep a creative practice alive in a world designed to pull you out of it. The first is a woman who stops the main character on the street. She tells him she's tired of living on what she calls ant autopilot. She said, "It's like we go through life with our antennas bouncing off of one another continuously on ant autopilot, with nothing really human required of us. Stop, go, walk here, drive there. All action basically for survival, all communication simply to keep this ant colony buzzing along in an efficient, polite manner. Here's your change, paper or plastic, credit or debit. You want ketchup with that? I don't want a straw. I want real human moments. I want to see you. I want you to see me. I don't want to give that up. I don't want to be an ant. If you think about it, nowadays no one will say, here's your change. Things are even more digital and transactional to the point where you are interacting with machines and AI. Real interactions are even more rare than ever. The kind of exchanges where two people technically interact, but no one actually meets, is our world right now. Real human moments rarely happen in our everyday lives. The woman in the film doesn't want polite, efficient interactions where nothing is actually shared. She wants real ones. Sometimes I wonder, have we been so keen on being efficient that we're just autopiloting? As I started posting art regularly on social media, the typical comments I see are often a wall of emojis instead of meaningful conversation on things that I share and also things other people share, especially on popular feeds. The fast game grows your numbers, but it doesn't usually grow meaningful connections. But I think the slow game can. The second scene I want to share from that film is a philosophy professor named Louis Mackey. He's this old, sharp, and a little cranky guy. He says most people never come close to their real potential. And he asks the main character, which is the more universal human characteristic, fear or laziness? On the days I don't want to do anything productive, it's almost always one of those two. I'm tired, I'm getting on my phone or computer just feels easier. Or if I want to attempt something ambitious, then I'm feeling scared of the outcome, just won't be good enough to warrant my investment of time and effort. Fear of failure, fear of unknowns, fear of missing something. The doubt in my mind always feels reasonable in the moment. And that's how a creative life quietly slips away from you. Once you can name what exactly is stopping you to pounce into action on a given day, it gets much easier to push past it. Tired isn't a real reason, because 10 minutes is always available. Scared isn't a real reason either. Nobody has to see what you are working on until you feel ready to share. Sometimes recognizing what's stopping you and confronting that fear, that there is something that's blocking you from moving into action, is actually the most critical work. The third scene I want to share is a tour guide named Speed Levitch, walking across a bridge, talking very fast, the way people often do in that film. And he states in his monologue, the world is an exam to see if we can rise into the direct experiences. Now, I think you would agree with me that most of what we do online keeps us in the feeling stage of creativity. You see a sketchbook spread on Instagram and you feel inspired. You watch a drawing video and think, I should really start drawing again. You save 100 references to a Pinterest board. You picture the artist you want to become. All of that registers as creative activity in your brain, but none of it is action. It's the feeling of creating without the doing. And the feeling is so satisfying on its own that a lot of us never make it to the action part. You can go to sleep feeling like you've been creatively engaged all day, and your sketchbook hasn't been opened in 3 weeks. I think that's what leverage means by indirect experience. You're looking at someone else's drawing instead of making your own. You're consuming the inspiration instead of acting on it. This is a trap I fall into all the time. There's a version of my evening where I spend 2 hours scrolling through other artists' work, saving things, bookmarking things, watching tutorials, and feel like I've been productive. I've been engaged with art, but I haven't made anything. My phone gave me a near perfect simulation of a creative life without the work of actually having one. And the simulation is so satisfying that on the days I'm tired, it's easier to settle for it than to put down my phone and pick up a pen. I think the way out is small and unglamorous. It's to start a single line on the blank page. The first mark, which is almost always bad. The 90 seconds where you're not yet drawing well, but you stop scrolling at least. You can't outsource your own gaze. You have to see the actual shape of the eyelid, the way the light catches the nose, the asymmetry of the face, the colors you chose to use, and the sound of your pen gliding through the page. This is the practical reason drawing is worth protecting in your life. It moves you from feeling into doing. Action is always better than thinking. Taking action means progress. Thinking becomes overthinking. Overthinking becomes exhaustion. So take action. Take it now. Action doesn't need to be fast. In fact, slow craft is the best possible filter for finding the kind of audience that sticks. Not because slowness is morally superior, but because it self-selects. A finished portrait takes hours. It rewards patience. It can be sped up or gamified. If somebody watches a 20-minute video of me drawing one face, they're not here for a quick dopamine hit. They're here because they actually want to watch someone draw. And those people, when they find each other in the comments of a channel like mine, start building something. They recommend supplies to each other. They share their own work. They check in when somebody disappears for a few weeks. That's a community. The fast version of growth gives you a number. The slow version gives you this. But there's a second thing the slow path filters that nobody talks about. It filters you. It protects the kind of artist you want to be from the kind of artist the algorithm will slowly turn you into. When you start optimizing for the fast game, you stop making the work you originally want to make. The thumbnail gets louder. The titles get more extreme. The drawings start getting chosen for their click potential instead of their meaning to you. Each individual change feels small. None of them feel like selling out. But 2 years in, you look at your own channel and you realize you don't recognize the artist who made it. The drift is real and it's almost invisible when it's happening. Slow growth protects you from that drift. When you're not chasing the next viral moment, you don't need to twist your work to chase it. You make what you actually want to make. That work stays yours. That's not nothing. That's almost everything. The numbers are a side effect. The bigger thing you're protecting is the artist you wanted to become in the first place. When growth feels frustrating, and it will, remember that this is the trade you're making on purpose. The numbers are not what you're chasing. The work and progress you're making on improving your skills and craft is. A month ago, someone left a comment on one of my videos saying that they noticed my video only had a few likes despite the effort I put into it. They said something like, "I see what you're doing, I'm doing it too, I'm trying to support my friends. Most of them don't return the favor and I keep losing motivation and stepping away. I don't know when I'll be back next." That's the cause of measuring slow path work with fast path numbers. You will burn out. You will wonder if you're doing something wrong. You're not. You're just looking at the wrong scoreboard. If you draw, keep drawing, especially the pages nobody will see. Those pages are how you stay honest with yourself. They're also the real answer to the question, would you still draw if no one was watching? Every private page is a small yes. If you make videos about drawing or about any kind of slow craft, don't optimize away the thing that makes it slow. The slowness is the feature. It's what separates your audience from a passing crowd. And if you're watching this right now, You've been quiet in the comments. Please say hi. Tell me what you're drawing this week. Tell me if any of this resonates with you. The algorithm will get what it gets. They care about revenue, we care about the artwork. See you in the next one.